Then Chihiro finds something mysterious. This is a cedar tree, and on the foot of the gate you can see a lot of small houses made of rocks. These small houses are God's houses or small stone shrines, and I wonder if you can notice, but they have been thrown away, and it's not just one, but in a large number. And I want you to pay attention to how they are piled up in the disorderly way. I actually have the close-up picture of this. If you take a close look, you can clearly tell how these small shrines have been collected and thrown away altogether. I imagine that each of these has been placed in order along this approach back in the days and worshipped, but now they were removed and collected with the gate at the foot of the cedar tree. I imagine that one of the carpenters who did the construction work placed them together with the gate at the foot of the cedar tree that was once a sacred tree so that they wouldn't be cursed. Well, although I think they are simple enough to be cursed. If you look carefully as the car passes by, well, some of these stone shrines are missing roofs, and you can see how there are small tableware inside them. I believe they were used to offer things like sake, but do you see how one of them is in red? There's one that's in red, and I don't know, but it's somehow a bit creepy. This red is not subtle, but strikingly bright that jumps into your eyes. Now, you may have already noticed, but Spirited Away is actually a horror movie. It's basically a horror movie, but the second half is made with taste of fantasy, which is so fun to watch. It's hard for us to see it also because of the storyline where Chihiro changes her name to Sen and works. But at least for the first 30 minutes of the movie until the part where Chihiro meets Yubaba is pretty straightforward horror. So, how should we see this scene? Where an area that was supposed to be sacred is dishonored with the gate removed, God's house is abandoned, and a car with a four-wheel drive carelessly entering inside. Oh, I'm sorry, my tie's crooked. How about this? Well, I'm telling a scary story, so maybe that's why. So, the storyline and the depiction here are structured so similarly to a type of Hollywood movie where a family, without knowing, moves into a cursed land owned by Native Americans. As for Chihiro, she has just left her last school, but hasn't transferred to a new one. Belonging to nowhere means she's unsettled, like a god without a house. She can enter this mysterious and sacred world because she's put under the same circumstance as the gods who are unsettled as their stone shrines have been destroyed. There's a classic setting in horror movies. That is, you can't enter into a cursed area unless you share something in common with the curse. In this movie, the entire family is unsettled. They're in the middle of moving, plus, well, I'll explain this more next week, but they are in the middle of a family crisis. That's why the three of them somehow look fallen apart, but that's how they also qualify to enter this world. The family crisis part may be a bit hard to understand, so I will explain to you step by step next week. Anyway, that's how they end up entering the God's land by mistake. Okay, here. So, as the car runs through the mountain, the path suddenly turns into a stone pavement. It turns into a stone pavement and the car shakes and rattles. I mean, this is a mountain path. And the fact the path becomes a stone pavement means that it is important enough for people in the past to lay the pavement. It's in the middle of a mountain, and the stone pavement is so much older than the, say, Edo period, so that indicates how sacred this path is. Even castles rarely lay stone pavement around them. So, having one is a sign that they are entering into such sacred land. But the father doesn't notice it and drives the car in a furious speed. On the storyboard, there's a comment that says the mom is used to the dad's reckless driving. That's why she doesn't change her facial expression. But for Chihiro, it was the first time to see her dad drive like that, so she's so surprised. And suddenly, a tunnel shows up in front of them. And in front of the tunnel, there's something called sekijin, which is like a doll in a shape of a human. Those stone figures are typically excavated from ancient Japanese tombs in the northern part of Kyushu Prefecture. And you can tell that this sacred area has been developed quite a long time ago. So when the family wonders what this is and looks up above this red tunnel, you see unreadable letters. And there's some sort of a roof and a sign over here, but you can't read what it says. Although it actually says Abraya, there's an instruction on the storyboard that says make them unreadable. So what continues from here is a theme park with a hot spring facility that's built before the economic bubble burst. But there's no real hot spring. I mean, because there's no spring source. Abraya in the movie boils regular water with a charcoal kiln instead of natural hot spring, so it's a fake spa, but they still claim that it's Hot Spring Village. I'll explain this more in details as they get to the town. But the car suddenly stops around 3 minutes past, since keep changing fast. Whoops, okay. It's only been 3 minutes 23 seconds since the Totoro logo and the title. So the parents enter the tunnel, the father seems unalerted and says, "Oh, it's just made of mortar. This building is pretty new." He talks like he knows what this place really is, but that's because he works in an architecture industry. That's how he knows so much about the architecture. So he doesn't care, but a strong wind blows from behind them, and they blow together and enter into the tunnel. That gives Chihiro a bad feeling, so she refuses strongly to go inside the building. This is at 4 minutes 18 seconds. She says, "I'm not going. Only the father and the mother go in." But when Chihiro glances at the stone figure, it's actually kind of hard to tell, but the camera zooms into the stone figure extremely slowly. You may notice it more easily if you look at the edge. The lens is closer to the subject in this picture compared to this one. The background flows outward. It's so subtle, but the scene is so carefully depicted with such a slow tracking shot where the camera gets closer to the figure. Chihiro's mind is captivated by it, and she's having a bad feeling. This is only a 2-second cut, so you can't really tell what's going on.